So this is the tutorial for the web-based GIS platform that we have set up for the I-80 project. The platform is accessible with any computer that has web capabilities. We will be placing this link on the I-80 website, and all you need to do is copy and paste this link into your web browser, and it will take you to this main page. Today what we're going to do is go through each of the functions of the buttons on the top of this website so that you can have the ability within your individual working groups to navigate within the website. One of the first things I'd like to show is the base map function. You have the ability within this map to switch the background image to imagery, which is more of like a Google Earth type background, imagery with labels, topography, terrain with labels, or light gray canvas. You'll note that what we're currently using is the streets view, and you can note the reason why we're currently using that is because the refresh on the background happens to be much faster with the streets view than it is with some of the other aerial views. So if you want to be able to zoom in and zoom out readily on the map and have a very high rate of refresh, I suggest that you maintain the streets background. But once you're zoomed in and looking at a particular area, that aerial background can sometimes come in handy for discussions you're having. One of the other tools on the top is called Measure, and this allows you the ability to measure either an area, a distance, or to find a location by coordinate system. And it can kind of help you to understand the distance between a point you're talking about on the map and perhaps the next nearest town. Another button we've provided for ease of user is called Bookmarks. And Bookmarks allows you to zoom in to different states. You can zoom into all 4 states, as you see on the screen now, or if you want to go to a particular state, such as California, you can just use the bookmark and it will zoom you into the section of I-80 that runs through California. This is a good point to start talking about one of the other options we have up here, or tools we have up here, which is called layers. Right now we have many different layers showing up in the available project description items that you can click on. Some of these have different meanings. For example, we've created a layer called California ITS, and that's for Intelligent Transportation Systems. We noted when we started putting all of our information into the website that California had an extensive system of ITS components within the state, and it tended to, as you can see on the screen coming up now, overwhelm some of the other icons or points of interest along I-80. So what we've tried to do is, in areas where we have detailed information and significant amounts of information, we've tried to break those out as their own layers so that people can turn them on and off as they see fit as they maneuver through the map. One of the other recently added items that we've put on the map are the AADTs, or the average annual daily traffic. For information where it's available, and you'll note in California there's different line colors for each of the different AADTs. But as you're looking at a segment, if you'd like more information on any one particular area, you can actually click on the line within the state, and that'll bring up all the background database information that we have available for that particular area. One other item we have available to us that's really beneficial for knowing where you are and how to utilize the map is we've added mileposts in there, milepost markers. So you have the ability, if perhaps you're talking about a project along I-80 and you'd like to know you're outside of the metropolitan area and you'd like to know which milepost you're at, all you have to do is go and click on the individual milepost icon, and it'll bring up the background information behind that, letting you know which milepost you are, and you can then either use the distance measure tool, or you can just look at the milepost to know how far you are from perhaps the next city or the next metropolitan area. Some of the other layers that we've provided are I-80 projects. I-80 projects is a general database of information we received at the onset of this project, and we're now trying to split that information down into subcategories of information that are more useful to some working groups than perhaps to other working groups. One of the icons we have on here that you'll notice is truck parking. For the truck, freight, and logistics working group and for the truck parking working group, it was important to know where parking is available, whether it's commercial or whether it's public parking, such as rest areas, and then how many parking spaces are available. So where the background information exists, we've tried to incorporate that into this database as much as possible. You'll also note some of the information available on here concerns projects, particular projects that are going on within a particular state. Additional database layers that are available, a recent one that we've collected and put into the base map, concerns alternative fuel stations. And we've actually received the alternative fuel station information for all 4 states. And I'll zoom into Wyoming here quickly so that we can just take a look at the alternative fuel locations along I-80. So this information actually came to us from the U.S. Department of Energy. And when we first received this information, we received it for the entire United States. And in order to allow people to access the information easier and in order to increase the refresh screen phase of this project, we've actually filtered that information based on the geographic borders of the 4 states we're concerned with so that it only displays that information for each of the 4 states. Some of the questions we've received from the working groups is how much information can I get or how do I filter that information? And all we need to know is what you'd like us to obtain for you. In this case, it was alternative fuel stations. And how much of that information do you want? Do you want it for the entire state? Do you only want it along I-80 for, let's say, 20 miles to either side of it? Do you only want fueling stations that are located along I-80? And those are all attributes that we can filter by based on this being a GIS platform. So it allows us really to obtain as much or as little information as each of the working groups needs. One of the other items I want to point out here, or the other button I want to point out up here, is the print button. And this allows you to basically print screen for anything you happen to be looking at that particular point in time. And that allows you to print out a PDF of the particular discussion item that you're having at that time. And then you can utilize that as a hard copy to discuss it with other folks in your agencies or in your jurisdictions, and then come back to the working group with additional information or additional GIS information that's important to your working group. So I think we've gone through a good bit of the information that's available to these working groups. We are currently working on these layers and different items that can be done with these layers. We've been asked by the working groups to make these layers specific to a particular working group. So for instance, the wildlife working group would be able to click on a wildlife working group layer and it would bring up information rather than alternative fuel locations or stations. It would bring up information on wildlife crossings and potentially habitat information. So we're in the process of doing that, and as we continue working on this GIS database, you'll start to see new layers up here in the intent of making it very, very user-friendly for those folks just coming into this process. And with that, Perry, do you have anything to add?
I would just ask real quick, on the print option, does that allow you to save that and perhaps compile several into an electronic format for perhaps report purposes?
Very much so. The print option actually brings up a PDF page within the web browser. And so you have the ability, as you do with any web page, to copy, cut, paste, and to print.
Perfect, perfect. With that, I would just like to say, I know there's going to be a wealth of information collected, and many of the working groups are identifying really interesting data items for their discussion. And overall, I know that this is just going to improve the decision-making within the different states, within the different jurisdictions, and among all the I-80 network stakeholders. So thank you, Laycee, for this tutorial.
Thank you.